Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to thank all of you. I want to thank God for an opportunity to open this 19th annual AfriCANDO Trade and Investment Symposium here in Miami Gardens. We pray for traveling mercies for those that are coming and those of you that have traveled afar to get here, and those locally. And we pray for those who are still bearing the brunt of this hurricane season. We're praying for those in Puerto Rico, the Caribbean, and all across these United States, and our brothers and sisters in Key West who are still struggling through this very difficult hurricane period. We were hit in this city, but not as bad as was projected, and we thank God for that. We had talked about possibly canceling or postponing this conference, but many of you have made the commitments from international markets to get here, so we wanted to make sure that we would not lose that opportunity to create a platform for you here, as long as it was safe for you to do so. I am Vice Mayor Erobo Ighodaro, representing the city of Miami Gardens. On behalf of our Mayor, Oliver Gilbert, and my colleagues of the City Council, and the 113,000 residents of the beautiful city of Miami Gardens, we welcome you to the Gardens. Miami Gardens, for those of you that don't know, is the most populous African-American city, black city in the state of Florida, and the third largest in the county of Miami-Dade. We are proud to call ourselves home to the Miami Dolphins in Hard Rock Stadium, and home for Super Bowl 2020. Yes, this is a mecca for cultural activities. We host the annual Jazz in the Gardens musical festival. It's a worldwide international event, and this place has become a epicenter for culture, and now trade and investment. We don't just want to party. We want to make sure that some of that money that comes through the state of Florida and Miami-Dade County stay here in Miami-Dade County, and the talents of our executive mayor of the county. We're workforce ready. I love what Jimenez called the Employ Miami-Dade initiative. But in Miami Gardens, we want to say we invest Miami Gardens. So we're bringing you here to invest in our community. We don't just want to be the gateway to the South Florida market. We're the gateway to North Miami Beach, and city of Miramar and Broward County. We're the northernmost part of this county. So we are the gateway to business in South Florida, as South Florida is the gateway to the African continent. So we welcome you once again to Miami Gardens. You'll have 3 days of enjoyable sessions. I would call now the president of the Foundation for Democracy in Africa, the young man that has been at the forefront of making this event happen for the last 19 years, almost 2 decades. I'll bring forward Mr. Fred Oladinde. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor Erobo Ighodaro. It is really a pleasure to be here. Honorable Oliver G. Gilbert, the Mayor of Miami Gardens, Honorable Dennis Moss, Miami-Dade County Commissioner, Honorable C.D. Glenn, President and CEO of U.S. Africa Development Foundation, Honorable Becky Norton Dunlop, Ronald Reagan Distinguished Fellow, Policy Promotion, the Heritage Foundation, Ms. Ajala, President of AWEP, Ms. Joyce Akpata, Director General of the Nigerian American Chamber of Commerce, Madam Patricia Seki, President, Africa Performance, Ms. Caroline Tanui, the President of KWAPS Kenya, Dr. Yinka Tela, the President, Nigerian American Foundation, Dr. Emilio T. Gonzalez, Aviation Director, Miami International Airport, Mr. Glenn Wiltshire, the Deputy Director, Port Everglades, Juan Corilla, the Director, Port of Miami. Distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
I would please ask that you join me in a minute of silence as a follow-up to the Vice Mayor's expression of concern for those who have been victims of the Hurricane Irma here in South Florida. So if we would please just stand up for a minute of silence so we can have them in our thoughts and in our prayers. It's my sincere pleasure to welcome you to the 19th U.S. Africa Trade and Investment Conference and Trade Show, AfriCANDO 2017. We are very delighted that despite the threat of Hurricane Irma and the level of challenge for us to assemble this year, that you have come from far and wide and you have honored our invitation. Please, this from all of our members across the United States and worldwide, I want to thank you for honoring our invitation. Friends, on July of 2016, United States Congress reauthorized AGOA benefits and the preferential treatment of apparel articles and the third country fabric program, duty-free treatment of apparel of articles through 2025. Just last month, over 800 people from Sub-Saharan Africa gathered in Lomé, Togo, which was the 16th AGOA Forum. The gathering, as many who have been watching U.S. relations from our point of view, from the AGOA Civil Society Secretariat, was a major success. The reason that we decided we were not going to cancel AfriCANDO 2017 is because of the commitment and the determination and the recommendation that came out of the Lomé Forum. We will be sharing some of these recommendations with you during this session. And the focus of our commitment to AfriCANDO 2017 is the same that was expressed during the 16th AGOA Forum in Miami, in Lomé. And it is for us to take a look at how small, medium enterprises can be empowered and be encouraged so that they can now be competitive in using the benefits of AGOA to reverse the current trend, which is decline in imports from Africa into the United States under AGOA. You know, state and local government across the United States. And this is why we also have chosen to come to Miami Gardens, and why we have been committed to working with Miami-Dade County since 1996. Must react to Congress's leadership for support to increase U.S.-Africa trade and economic cooperation, and must use AGOA benefits and the preferential treatment of apparel articles and the third country fabric program to create badly needed high-paying jobs for Americans on this side of the ocean, and also for the 38 AGOA eligible countries in Africa. Through AfriCANDO, the Foundation for Democracy in Africa, and all our partners and affiliates have worked over the last 16 years to try to see how we can gradually operationalize our commitment to making sure that our work in trying to bring direct flights through different points in Africa into Miami, and also that we would have direct shipping connection, that it will become realized before 2025. So the commitment of our board is that during AfriCANDO 2017, we will be identifying our first class of micro, small, medium enterprises that we have invited, and some have here to exhibit their products. And out of these several companies that we have affiliation with over the last 15 years, we are selecting 10 companies from across sub-Saharan Africa that we will be investing in these communities across sub-Saharan Africa, in providing for them that last mile of being able to get their product after all of the hard work, and to be able to work with all of our affiliates and some of our partners here today, would express to you the commitment that Miami-Dade County, the commitment that the United States government, and the commitment that the whole community across South Florida has to help us ensure that we strengthen the supply chain for products from micro, small, medium enterprises here in the United States. Last week in Abuja, during the Nigerian American Chamber of Commerce Small Medium Enterprises, I advised the gathering there that the commitment of the Africa Trade Development Center to working not only with the 38 AGOA eligible countries, but with the private sector and also with the civil society is taking a different dimension. And that dimension, ladies and gentlemen, is we are opening the Africa Trade Development Center platform. And we will be signing during this AfriCANDO a commitment with a minimum of 10 companies who are export ready, who have the sustainable supply, and our investment from this community will be to you hold your hands and make sure that we help you get your products into the market here in the United States under AGOA and across the Western Hemisphere in other lucrative markets. We have a very interesting program, and it's a two-track program that has been designed by our Executive Director, Mr. Okoma. We would have a track that would address the issue of supply chain development and competitiveness under AGOA, which would address the issues of small, medium enterprises. But we also have another track that will bring the different ports and the different airports that are interested in working to ensure that the security infrastructure that is necessary to reduce the transaction costs and to be able to bring our products from sub-Saharan Africa into the United States is fully addressed. So there will be technical workshops that will be led by Mr. Aaron Thomason, who is here with us and who has worked diligently in helping us to put this program together. It is my pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, now to bring to the podium the chairman of the Foundation for Democracy in Africa, Dr. Goshwe Blyden. Dr. Blyden does not need too much introduction, but for some who do not know Dr. Blyden has been chairman of the Foundation for Democracy in Africa from 2013, and he, in this community, is a leader in the area of medicine and also in community development. Dr. Goshwe Blyden.
Good morning. Good morning. I want to first welcome all of you to this 19th annual AfriCANDO U.S.-Africa Trade and Investment Center, particularly those who have come from afar. I have been involved with the FDA since its inception in 1994, and I have attended all of the AfriCANDO conferences over the past 19 years. It is pleasing to see the evolution of the FDA and its activities over these years. We were always interested in business development and trade between sub-Saharan Africa and the West. We tried different approaches, and it is pleasing to see the evolution of our strategies, including most recently the development of the African Trade and Development Center that Mr. Oladande just mentioned. I am also pleased to see the development and the evolution of the medium and small enterprise businesses. I remember when we first started, the Nigerian women we were invested in, and they would bring their goods over here. Now that whole concept, we've sort of revisited that again, but at a higher level of order and infrastructure. We live in a competitive world, and if our products are going to compete with the rest of the world, we need to have the infrastructure to address that. This has been one of the issues with AGOA, and again, now we see that this conference will help to address some of the deficiencies that might have impeded our bringing products to the market in a timely and effective way. I would be remiss if I did not mention, as has already been mentioned by the two previous speakers, the recent catastrophes brought on by the hurricane. I want us to think out of the box, in a sense, and to say how this apparent negative geography, that is, the catastrophic effects of the hurricanes, how can we, as business leaders and organizers, turn that into a positive? The hurricanes develop on the west coast of Africa, and they travel west, away from the continent, bearing down on us and causing marked destruction. Is there a way that we can harness the fact that those winds are going away from us, and may this not be an opportunity for business development on the west coast of Africa. I want us to think about that. Finally, I want you all to partake fully in these conferences, paying particular attention to those issues that are going to enhance productivity and supply chain delivery and enhance quality of product. I'm proud to be chairman for the Foundation for Democracy in Africa, because when I reflect back on the gathering when we started in 1994, to see what we have done, and with our partners, and I stress with our partners, it is remarkable. We just need to continue to work hard and to do the best that we can do and make Africa forefront and drive the economy of the world. Thank you. It is my sincere and dearest pleasure to invite the next speaker, who certainly needs no introduction from the AfriCANDO community, Commissioner Moss. Commissioner Moss has been a pillar on our behalf. Commissioner Moss was able to be the instrument that educated Dade County, educated the legislators of Dade County, made believers of the legislators of Dade County, and in so doing allowed us to get our feet off the ground. Commissioner Moss.
Good morning. Doc, thank you so much. And I'd like to say to the mayor and vice mayor and council and the great people in the city of Miami Gardens, thank you so much for hosting this event. Let's give them another big round of applause. My comments are going to be short. You've got outstanding speakers who are going to be sharing with you today a lot of valuable information, so I'm going to yield my time to them. I'd like to say on behalf of Miami-Dade County and the Board of County Commissioners and over 2.7 million good people in this community, we bring you greetings and we welcome you and we thank you for being here today. I'd like to recognize our county staff that are here. We've got the Seaport Director, the Airport Director. Would you all please stand? With all of the county staff members who are here, would you please stand? If you're already standing, just raise your hand. Let's give them a big round of applause and thank them for their support. Because over the years, if it hadn't been for their support, we would not be having these kinds of events in our community. One thing I want to leave you with, the discussion that we're having today, the 19th annual conference, would not have been possible had it not been for individuals like Dr. Blyden, Dr. Igadora, and others on the board, and particularly Fred Oladende and Tony Okoma. Would you please stand up? Let's give them a round of applause. And I make this point every year. I've been to all 19 of them. But I make this point every year. And the point is that these individuals help put a face on Africa for this community. They changed the way that we looked at Africa, the way that we thought about Africa, and the way that we saw opportunities to have bilateral trade and relationships with Africa. And it's going to take time. We're a great trading partner with South America. But that took years and years of nurturing relationships in order to make that happen. And this is what we're doing today on a continuous basis as we have these kinds of conferences and this kind of dialogue. And again, I want to thank the foundation for going ahead with this event, because many events were canceled in our community because of the hurricane. And, you know, again, to be able to make it happen today for those who had already committed themselves to be here, I think that it's great, and we're going to have some great information that'll be provided with us today. Finally, in closing, I want to thank the first responders and the second responders and the third responders who've been here to help us, and those who live here to help us during our time of struggle with Hurricane Irma. And certainly our prayers and thoughts go out to all of the communities that have been affected, you know, around not only just the U.S., you know, in the Caribbean as well. And so with that, I close, and again, to say thank you for being here, welcome. And here in Miami-Dade County, you know, we're pleased that you're here to share this experience with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Moss. Can we please give Commissioner Moss another round of applause? We've traveled widely in Africa, Nigeria, Senegal, Mali, South Africa, with Commissioner Moss, trying to build this relationship that even before AGOA was passed, and also to be able to get the support within Miami-Dade County to work with the port and the seaport. Ladies and gentlemen, we have very important partners here on this dial today. The Miami International Airport is one of the strategic airports in the United States. And you would hear more from the director of Miami International Airport, who we are so delighted is here with us today. He's a very busy man. He operates one of the busiest airports in the United States, and has spent a lot of time working to see how we can address some of those constraints that has hindered the competitiveness of African products here in the United States. As most of us know, despite the quality and the availability of products that could come duty-free into the United States under AGOA, because of the logistical constraints and also the transaction cost, particularly the transportation cost, some of the products are not as competitive as they could be. But ladies and gentlemen, Miami is a gateway to the Western Hemisphere, bar none. There are more flights coming out of Miami and going all over Latin America, the Caribbean, Europe. And we're working diligently to try to see how we can make that connection that will bring direct flights from the different points in Africa into Miami International Airport in the very near future. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to bring Dr. Emilio T. Gonzalez, the Aviation Director of Miami International Airport, to address the 19th AfriCANDO Conference. Dr. Gonzalez.
Good morning. Thank you. I would be remiss if I didn't thank our friends Fred and Tony and Dr. Blyden, your leadership for the foundation, and also Dr. O'Donnell for your hospitality and allowing us to have this conference here in Miami Gardens. These last few days have been very trying times for our community and for our airport. In fact, our airport was closed for 3 days due to the hurricane that we all know about. But it's a very resilient airport, and it speaks to the many people that work there, the many county professionals that work there, and I'm indebted to them for making sure that after the worst of the worst happened at 7 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday, we had our first inbound flight. So we were closed for a very brief period of time. We've been working tirelessly at the airport to develop an ever-increasing route network. You know, airports, from my perspective, are not places where aircraft take off and land, but airports are economic organisms, if you will. They're job generators. They're places where trade is conducted. Any number of economic and trade actions that go on in any society, quite frankly, start and finish at airports if you're dealing internationally. And we work very hard to develop our route network. You can take an aircraft from Miami to one of 160 places around the world today, but you can't do it directly to Africa, and you can't do it directly to Asia. And interestingly enough, the challenges are in Asia are geographic, but not so in Africa. Asia is, or Miami, if I will, Miami is the furthest geographic point in the United States from Asia, which means that air travel is going to be very difficult. You have to have the right aircraft, you have to have the correct routes. Africa is the closest geographic point in the or Miami is the closest geographic point to Africa, which makes it a natural that there should be more international trade, more aviation interaction between this huge continent that is the closest to our community. In the last 5 years, just to give you, I'm kind of a numbers guy, just to give you some numbers, we've attracted 27 new passenger and cargo carriers and welcomed 32 new routes. Our passenger traffic has increased 16%. Last year we serviced 44.6 million passengers, and our cargo tonnage grew to 2.1 million tons, which is 9%. Miami International Airport is currently the home to 107 different passenger and cargo aircraft. We service more airlines than any other airport in the United States. And I think that's a very telling statistic because Miami is a brand in and of itself. In 2016 alone, we added 16 international passenger airlines and 4 new cargo carriers. I talk to my colleagues at different airports. If they get 1 new international carrier every 5 years, they're throwing a party, okay? So we do have somewhat of an embarrassment of riches. This year alone, we have 7 international passenger airlines that have either commenced or scheduled services to Miami International Airport. Our cargo growth, because you can't talk about aviation, you can't talk about aircraft without cargo. Airlines are in the business to make money, and they make money from passengers and they make money from cargo. And if you talk to these guys on the side, they'll tell you they like cargo more because cargo doesn't complain. But the reality is, we have a very competitive product in Miami International Airport. The other interesting thing, and I want to keep my remarks brief, another interesting thing is the fact that we're trying to go beyond being an airport. Again, we're an economic organism. We're an asset. I'm an asset manager. And we're constantly trying to figure out ways to commercialize, create jobs, and promote this jewel of an economic engine that we have. 2 years ago, we had ourselves declared an international pharmaceutical hub, working diligently with the International Air Transport Association. We got that declaration, which essentially allows us to form best practices and to accept and transship pharmaceuticals via aircraft. You know, the pharmaceutical industry is huge. It's one of the most regulated industries in the world, but transporting those pharmaceuticals was not regulated at all, which meant that the spoilage rate was very high. And if you have very expensive medicines and they don't make it from point A to point B, you've lost a lot of money. We went through this process. It took us about 18 months to go through the process. We were declared a pharmaceutical hub, only the second in the world after Brussels when we were declared. And as a result, our business in the pharmaceutical arena has grown 40% over last year. We pushed through approximately $4.5 billion in pharmaceutical products. And in addition to, whenever I travel internationally, I meet with airline executives and airline decision makers. You know, we try and meet with pharmaceutical executives and pharmaceutical decision makers because it's a big difference. Added to that, we formally asked our Department of Commerce to declare the Miami International Airport a free trade zone. The entire airport, thank you sir, the entire airport will be a free trade zone. Why? Because if you can transship pharmaceuticals through MIA, why not manufacture pharmaceuticals through MIA? And pharmaceuticals, by and large, is a very high margin, low weight product. I've been to the cargo side of the airport, just to put it in perspective, and you go into these big refrigerated warehouses, hundreds of thousands of feet of warehouses, and you might see an entire wall of agricultural products, and then over here you have 2 pallets of pharmaceutical products, and they'll tell you those 2 pallets are worth more than that wall. It's a statement of fact. It's a statement of fact, and we want to capture that as best we can. We think that being declared a free trade zone will enhance not only jobs, but trade as well to Miami. Our pharmaceutical designation, if you will, has caused our trade, for example, with Mexico to go up 300% last year. And with the Middle East, over 100%. So we're slowly building this pharma hub. We were so successful that we even created our own organization, if you will, an own trade consortium. It's called Pharma.Aero, if you want to look it up, with the airports in Brussels, the airport, Changi Airport in Singapore, the airport in Sharjah in the United Arab Emirates, and also some different air carriers. Amerijet was just recently awarded a pharma designation. American Airlines Cargo is in the process. So this is now really taking off here, and there's a reason why I'm mentioning this, because I think that there's a huge possibility for us to capture that Africa trade that we all talk about. Being the closest to Africa, it should by definition come through Miami first. And one of the reasons that I'm really invested in this, not too many people know this because I don't advertise it, but as a young undergraduate, my degree is in international relations, but my minor is in African studies. And I was mentored by a phenomenal Nigerian professor who at a very early age exposed me to the history, the culture, the economics, and the agricultural capabilities of Africa. And interestingly enough, despite all the years that have gone by and despite all the political upheavals and economic problems, Africa today is probably at its best in decades. There's a boom in small business, there's a boom in medium-sized businesses. Those are the job creators. People don't get rich, people don't get jobs thinking that you're going to have a multinational come into your country and create a factory that will hire 5,000 low-paid people. You create your own business, you create your own future, and when you create your own business and your own future, then you demand those things that a growing middle class needs, the ability to travel, the ability to trade. And that's why I think more than any other time, I would say in the last 30 years, Africa has reached its potential, and it's a potential that we, at least at the airport, and hopefully, for example, with Commissioner Moss, who's been leading this effort forever, we need to be able to finally say, you know what, there's direct trade with Miami and Africa. We see Africa trade, I'll be honest with you, from an airline perspective, the point-to-point trade is limited, but there's an opportunity there for hubs. There should be a South African hub trading with Miami. There should be an East African hub trading with Miami, and there should be a West African hub trading with Miami. And our challenge is to not only promote what the benefits are for Miami and Africa with regards to trade, but help where we can. You know, produce studies, produce route analyses, show airlines what works. We've done this in the past. I got to be honest with you, we've come very, very close to having a Miami South African route. We're continually discussing these possibilities. with airlines, every opportunity we get. You know, if we don't have scheduled meetings, I ambush these guys at conferences around the world. But there is a great deal of interest, and what we needed to do is continue to promote the attractiveness of South Florida so that we're a product like any other product. And airlines, foreign airlines, are businesses like any other business. And we have to make ourselves attractive. And we do that as often as we possibly get. So again, I would like to thank you for the invitation. I want to thank all of my fellow panel members here, my port director, Juan Curila, Dr. Blight, all of you here. Thank you so much. We are continuing to push South Florida Africa trade. We're going to continue to count on people like Commissioner Moss to get us out there and do what we need to do to make sure that Miami becomes the entry point for most of the sub-Saharan trade in Africa and the United States. So with that, I thank you very kindly.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gonzalez. I just wanted to let you know what the Africa Trade Development Center is doing to ensure that we optimize all of the opportunity for that direct flight. I would please ask all of the members of AWEB and all of those that are here to exhibit their product to please stand up, just for us to let you see. These are the people that will be bringing those cargo. They will be the ones that will be bringing those passengers. And this is the next step in the Africa Trade Development Center's approach to making sure that this would happen. I also, just to let you know, that in the area of advocacy on AGOA, there has been many champions across Africa, and one of them is in the room with us today. I have worked very closely with Ayodele Williams in Sierra Leone, and our commitment in terms of trying to ensure that Sierra Leone continues to be prominent in terms of their participation in AGOA is tremendous. We were together in Lomé last month, and I think Ayo is here with us now. Ayo, can you please stand up? This is little. That's Ayo. And through Ayo, we have taken a delegation out of Miami into Sierra Leone, and we are working now very closely with the Port of Sierra Leone in terms of trying to stabilize and sustain the kind of relationship that would again make this all making Miami the gateway to Africa a possibility. So please, ladies and gentlemen, join me in giving Dr. Gonzalez another round of applause. We thank you for the great work you and your staff are doing, and we look definitely to working with you in making sure that we get those direct flights, and we'll use those direct flights to bring those transactions costs down that will make our trade competitive. Our next speaker is a relationship that is relatively new. And I will be asking Mr. Glenn Wiltshire, the Deputy Director for the Port of Everglades. Now, as most of you will hear later on from him, and also from our Port Director in Port Miami. Port Miami is a clean port. Port Everglades also provides us a different opportunity for the kind of cargo that Port Miami is not able to handle. And we are sincerely delighted and happy that we are able to expand our outreach as we work very hard to make sure that we are able to bring all of the products from Africa into the United States under AGOA and into other markets, lucrative markets in the Western Hemisphere. So I present to you Dr. Glenn Wiltshire.
Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
if Commissioner Pepe Diaz was here, I would say we have a sort of standing joke when we're at events and that I did get a visa to come south of the border. No, but it really is a great opportunity, and thank you for inviting us to come on down today. Commissioner Holness, Dale Holness was originally on the agenda. He had a conflict, so on behalf of our Mayor Barbara Sharif, the County Commission, and the 1.9 residents of Broward County, congratulations on proceeding forward with this conference. As the Vice Mayor said, it's that county just north of Miami Gardens, I think is what it is. But when we think about it, and I know this is a Miami 19th year, great program, great initiative, but we always like to think of the South Florida, and Dr. Gonzalez mentioned that a couple times. He said Miami more often. So what we'd like to train that mindset into, it's the South Florida economy. That's 6 million people that really are between Monroe, Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties. That are two things. One, we're the consumers. So when we think about opportunities with Africa, we look at import opportunities. And right now, when I look at my statistics, there's a lot of opportunities because Port Everglades, which does move a few more containers than Port Miami, but it's not a competition because the opportunities are there. As we like to say, there's opportunities for both of us. So Port Miami has its niche, clearly the leader in cruise. We have our niche. We have those bulk commodities that come in through Port Everglades that sometimes may be sourced in Africa. That don't come through Port Miami. So it's just like FLL for international flights. I think there's opportunities for the county. And when we look at our statistics, a couple of statistics to throw out, I didn't look at 5 years, but 0.15% of the value of the imports and exports that move through Port Everglades came out of Africa. 0.02% of the number of containers that passed through Port Everglades, either left Port Everglades, mostly left because, when we looked at our Africa statistics, it's South Africa and Nigeria. We have exports, and they're mostly the consumer kind of exports that are going into Africa. So we see some great opportunities. We've met with a number of African countries who have come up to visit us. 2 months ago, I was on a Skype conference call set up by the U.S. Consulate in Durban, talking to them about how Durban can be a home port for cruise ships rather than a port of call, because there's a significant different economic impact of a home port operation, as Juan Correa will tell you, than a port of call, which also has a benefit. So that's what we're trying to focus on, is what can we do to expand the opportunities for trade, direct trade, between Africa and South Florida. Right now, all of our trade with Africa really passes through the Mediterranean or through Northern Europe and is transshipped. So anytime there's a transaction, a transshipment, that's inefficiency. So I think the most efficient, just like the airport director said, those direct flights, the same thing on a direct cargo service, is really the most efficient way of doing it, whether it's on an import side or an export side. I did want to point out that we have a conference coming up next month. If Commissioner Holmes was here, he would put a pitch on it. Our Florida International Trade and Cultural Expo. Oh, there's, I see Paola there. So she'll, from our Office of Economic and Small Business Development. And I do have a couple staff here as well that were allowed to come south. Robert Barcelo, who's in our economic, he's one of our marketing folks. And then Sam Harville, our security manager, which will be on the next panel. But we see opportunity. We have 20 carriers. We service 150 different ports in 70 different countries. But what we'd like to see is an expansion of trade. So we really appreciate the opportunity to be invited down. And hopefully this is a start of a larger partnership where Broward County and businesses in Broward County can become much more involved with this organization. It's got a 19-year history. We know we're the outsiders, coming in, but it's a regional approach, and that's what we find in many things here in South Florida. Just like we're going through the recovery from the storm, it's a regional approach to solving problems. So I think that's what we do best in South Florida here, is when we see a problem, we bring the right resources to bear, whether they came from Miami-Dade County or Broward County or or Miami Gardens or Miramar. It's a case that there is no border for that kind of thing, because we all benefit from international trade, whether that is international trade where jobs are created in the United States for the exports, or jobs are created distributing and selling all of the products that we can import from Africa. My only involvement with Africa, I was in Morocco many, many years ago. And I had to fly there through Paris and Atlanta and a few other stops to get there. So I think the bottom line is it's all about opportunity. And this conference is a great way to have that conversation about those opportunities, build those relationships, expand on those relationships, and walk away with new relationships. So thank you once again for inviting me here today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wiltshire. I think I also would like to recognize here with us, and will be on the next panel, the Director General of the Port of Conakry, who is here with us, Mr. AfriCANDO. Can you please stand so that we can recognize the Port Director General? We will have him on the next agenda. You could have a seat, please. So we are delighted that he's here with us and would have the opportunity to share with us some of the opportunities and also some of the challenges that we need to address to make sure that the efforts of our keynote speaker today, who is well invested all over Africa in communities, that is actually working to empower some of our partners who are here today to develop their products. A lot of investment has been done. Now here's the point. We need that last mile. With all that investment that has been made in all these micro, small, medium enterprises, we need, and that is what the Africa Trade Development Center, in partnership with all of our different organizations, would like to see, is to bring those products through Miami, and for us to put them in our Miami Free Trade Zone and use the Africa Trade Development Center platform to get those products into the hands of American consumers. And we promise we will do that. Our next speaker in this community does not need any introduction. He's the engine of economic growth, Mr. Juan Correa. The Port of Miami is a large employer of labor, just as the airport is. And I think he just came back from Africa a few weeks ago, trying to solidify those relationships that would help us, again, to make sure that Miami remains the gateway to Africa. He has been involved in policy at different levels before he took over the reign of Port Miami. And everybody is very confident that one will take Port Miami to the next level, and that we will be able to achieve all of the work that we have done in the last 16, 17 years in trying to use that huge investment that was just made in the port, preparing Miami for the opening of the Panama Canal, which he will share with you. So we're in a very good and safe place here. And there is not a doubt in my mind that we will be able to definitely use Miami to bring those products into the United States and in markets across the Western Hemisphere. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'll bring Mr. Juan Correa, Director of Port Miami.
Good morning. Good morning. So it really is a tremendous pleasure to be up here once again addressing the AfriCANDO Congress. First of all, before anything I say, I want to thank Commissioner Moss. Commissioner Moss, yeah, absolutely. One of the stalwarts of our community as it relates to many issues, among them international trade, specifically trade with Africa. Commissioner Moss, I was just telling my good friend and colleague Glenn Wilshire from Port Everglades, and Glenn might be right about his container numbers, at least for the next year or so. Then we'll see what happens. Just kidding, Glenn. Actually, I have a little story about Glenn. During the storm, Port Everglades was on the phone with us, Commissioner, and I think Emilio knows this. Port Everglades was on the phone with us, not only he, but his director, with our mayor, making sure that the fuel trucks that get fed at Port Everglades actually work their way down to Miami-Dade County without any problem. So thank you, Glenn. But I was telling Glenn a little bit earlier about Commissioner Moss's involvement in international trade and his support for Port Miami. A support that is shared, I think, by our county commission. I know, and of course by our Mayor Carlos Jimenez, which have entrusted the Port administration, and this didn't begin with me, believe me, and everything that happens now, it isn't it's the people standing over there, people like Yves Mumford, people like Richard de Villiers, like Cicleo Garcia, right? Of course, Gerard Philippou, who, there he is, look at that look, good looking, always. People that are delivering and implementing the message and the directives that our county commission and our mayor set on the Port of Miami. And it's because of them that we are where we are today, having dredged to 50 feet, getting ready for the canal. We're ready. We are the largest container port in Florida handling traffic on the Trans-Pacific trade. And the question just begs itself, why not Africa? Why not Africa? Right? So we were there in May. We spent about 12 days along with the aviation department. I believe Mr. Owens was there as well, Greg. He hit the South Africa part of the mission. And then we were there with Commissioner Edmondson also in Cote d'Ivoire, in Nigeria. We were in Senegal. We were in Conakry, visiting those ports, visiting with the trade executives. And what did we see? We saw a region that is ready for growth, ready for direct trade with South Florida, be it Miami or Port Everglades, really do Miami, but be it whoever, right? We want those direct services. And the trade is there. We believe the time is now. We're going to continue going back to Africa. Gerard will be there October 14th. He's going to be in Durban at a maritime conference, pitching trade with South Florida, promoting an event that we're going to have next year at the Port of Miami, trying to bring together port directors from the region to share experiences, promote trade. I believe later this morning you're going to hear from our Chief of Security, Yves Mumford, on some of our initiatives for security, for trade, on how can we share best practices. And we are excited, and it's not about just business on the phone. It's about face-to-face, meeting people. This is still a people business. People do business with people they know, people they trust. And I'm excited also with Dr. Gonzalez, his initiatives, of course with Asia, with Africa. We have partnered on many trips with the aviation department under the leadership of our mayor and our county commission to go out and get the business that we don't have, as well as go out and retain the business that we have. So with that, I think you're going to be much more interested in hearing Chief Mumford's, say hello, Yves. There you go. Chief Mumford's presentation than anything I have to tell you. So with that, thank you very much, and please enjoy your conference. Thank you.